Hey there, Johannes Keating here. Today, it's about how we can inadvertently set our patients up to fail. I'm talking about people that have some fragility or some clear capacity thresholds and or they're really enmeshed in their defenses. Their defenses are what we call egosyntonic, meaning to the person, they're just normal. They don't see that it's a defense mechanism, that it's a strategy that they're employing at some level. They're just thinking it's who I am, it's normal. And so they're enmeshed from their own first person perspective, they are at one with their own defenses. And so it's basically everybody on the psychoneurotic spectrum right of center, because they're going to have some degree of ego syntonicity or enmeshment in their defenses, meaning there's restructuring that needs to take place, meaning that they need to learn how to experience their feelings and their anxiety and their defenses as different animals, as distinct entities. So everybody right of center on the psychoneurotic spectrum, and then everybody on the fragile spectrum. And so, in very, very concrete terms, what can go wrong is when the therapist is doing, some preliminary work on the conscious alliance and inviting feelings. And the invitation will be, so what feelings are coming up here, or how do you notice that feeling in your body? And the question is asked over and over. And that can basically be a way of setting certain people up to fail. Because if they really are deeply entrenched and enmeshed in their defenses, if they're deeply identified with their defenses, or if they are fragile, they are just not going to be able to get at it. They're not going to be able to get at their actual feelings, and they're not likely to have the kind of breakthroughs that we are aiming for when we work in that manner. The patients where that works, they're the ones that are either not very resistant or just moderately resistant or basically just center or left of center on the psychoneurotic spectrum. They're the ones where we can do some preliminary work on the conscious alliance and help them see their interpsychic causality, their triangles, and then just start inviting, so what feelings are coming up? What feelings are coming up? How do you feel that in your body? How do you experience that in your body? Over and over, and then build pressure in that manner until you have a breakthrough into the unconscious. That basically only works with people either just center or left of center on the psychoneurotic spectrum. The folks that are psychoneurotic and not fragile, and they're not highly resistant, or they're just barely highly resistant. That approach can work with those people. But for everybody else, that way of working is a way of setting people up to fail. The people that are fragile, they don't have the capacity. The people that are highly resistant and very enmeshed in their defenses, they're too intertwined, they're too enmeshed with their defenses, where simply peppering the person with a question, what feelings are coming up, or how do you feel that in your body, it's just not going to gain traction. So, a metaphor that comes to mind that is helpful or can be helpful is that if you think about the person in question that is seeking help, the patient in this situation, the patient is like a rope or a string. And then around that rope, there are these other strings that represent the person's defenses. And the therapeutic task is to part or cleave the person from their excessive anxiety and from their defenses. It's like a vine or another rope that is bound up and wrapped around the rope that represents the person itself. Okay. So the task is to cleave the person from their defenses so they can be who they are, unencumbered by this vine of excessive anxiety and defense. And Again, with people on the left side of the psychoneurotic spectrum, the people that are less resistant, we can go from the body up. And by that, I mean just repeatedly asking about feelings, pressuring on defenses, asking about how they experience that in their physical body. And that's a way of really starting from the body and going up. And by going up, I mean is that eventually that will translate into mental content. Impulses will be visualized. The channel of memory will be unlocked, and you'll get mental, psychological material in the form of thoughts and memories and visualizations and things of that nature. So, body up. This is where we build pressure slowly, like a pressure cooker. And eventually, there's the explosion or the entry into the unconscious. And so that's body up. Okay. And so that's if we go back to the ropes, or the rope, the person, and then there's the vine, that's a way of separating or parsing the two ropes or the rope and the vine from the bottom, from down here. You bust it open from here and you begin to facilitate the process of parting or separating the rope and the vine, or the two different ropes here. Okay, from bottom up. With the other set of patients that I'm referring to, those with some fragility or egosyntonicity, where the defenses are deeply entrenched in the character, the patient is really identified with their defenses. We don't want to go bottom up. We don't want to go busting it from here up. We want to go from mind down into the body. And so what that means in concrete terms is that we help the patient identify what they feel cognitively first. Just, aha, I am angry, or I am sad, or whatever the feeling is. And then from there, we can often say things like, if that angry part of you had a voice, what would it feel like saying? And then by giving it a voice, it begins to create distance from the patient and that part of them, including the defenses. And so it's a way of being able to look at it from a distance. And this is also where we can invite a more intellectualized portrait to visualize what the impulse wants to do. And this is a way of starting here, starting cognitive. So starting in the mind and going down, because it's often too overwhelming for someone with fragility to focus very, very deeply on how they experience something in the body. I have found that it tends to blow them out of the water. And so this is a way of working from the mind down into the body. And so once the psychic system is loosened up, once there is some capacity that has been built up, then at that point you can move more towards a traditional. So how do you feel it in the body? How do you experience that in the body? Or that still doesn't say how you feel it. How are you experiencing that feeling, and how do you feel it in the body? And that's more of the anxiety again. And you can work in a more standard fashion that way. Bottom line is, we set our patients up to fail if they have fragility or if they're deeply identified with their defenses, and we go for standard, trying to go from the body up through into the mind. And instead, what needs to be done is we need to start from the mind. We invite intellectualized portraits. We encourage the patient to give voice to their different parts as a way of loosening up the system and as a way of creating more ego dystonicity, to get the patient away from being totally enmeshed with and identified with their defenses. So once there is that distance between the patient and their defenses, they can observe their feelings a bit. Capacity has been built up. They're not as identified with their defenses. And you've loosened things up from going mind downward, then you can go the other way and start building up from the body up through into the mind. Okay, that's enough of a ramble for today. I hope that was helpful. See you around.